Hi, Madeline. Welcome to Movie Junk. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. We have Madeline Zima, who I've been a longtime fan of. Fans have seen your work in The Nanny, Heroes, Californication, Twin Peaks, Bombshell, and coming up as Casey Brinke in DC's Doom Patrol. I can't thank you enough for joining today.
Thank you so much. Zaya, right? I got it right.
Yes.
I have to just I have to just tell myself, not Zia, not Zia. Um, yeah, but yes, I get to play Casey Brink, which is very exciting. So
Amazing, amazing. And I'm sure fans often come up to you and want to discuss, your role in a popular hit show, The Nanny. But for me, the first time that I saw you was in Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan. I think
that's one of my favorites. I'm very proud of that. Um, I don't know how old I was, but like it's funny to be synonymous with almost every nanny project of the 90s. Whether it was like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Mr. Nanny, or The Nanny. But yeah, I had the best time on that. I loved Hulk Hogan. He was so sweet. I got to work with Sherman Hemsley and Mother Love and have nothing but like fond memories. And Austin Pendleton. I mean, I have nothing but fond memories of that experience. So
yeah,
it's
because
funny.
I know, I must have, watched, Mr. Nanny like hundreds of times, growing up. I'm a big fan of the Hulkster, and
Yeah,
having, Hulk Hogan and George Jefferson, tag team together.
I know.
As
I
his
know.
manager, that
I
was
know.
awesome.
It was awesome. And it was a really like joyful experience. Sherman was fantastic and so generous and sweet, just as you would expect him to be. And so was Hulk Hogan. His real name is Terry.
Yep,
So
yep.
nobody who
Terry
his name
Bollea.
Terry could ever be all that scary.
I know Terry Bollea. And you were like, I think 5 or 6 at the time. Standing
No,
next.
I think I was 6 or 7 because I did the Hand Rocks the Cradle when I was 5, and then I went away and did the pilot of The Nanny, and then did I think I did this after the pilot, at least, of The Nanny. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just got typecast in the 90s as the kid that someone takes care of.
And there was no connection to Mr. Nanny and the Nanny, just same names almost.
And just, it's just the law of compounding of the universe. It's just like you just get more of the same of whatever you got, I guess.
Any stories you could share with working with Hulk Hogan? Being that
I
young.
mean, it's a long time ago, so it's hard to be like, I've got that right off the top of my head. But I do know that he had a Make-A-Wish kid on set and like was just that kind of a celebrity, that kind of a performer who takes care of his fans. Sorry, that was so rude. Takes care of his fans and was very, very kind and just like you would want somebody who has a lot of eyeballs on them to be.
And this was your second film role at the time?
I guess probably. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I probably had done other small roles and other things that might not even be on IMDb. I don't know. But my first film was The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Maybe Mr. Nanny was my second. Not quite sure.
And how did you first get into acting?
I feel like I've told the story so many times, but I was 28 months and my mom took me to an open call, which was for a national commercial called it was a Downy commercial, the fabric softener. And it was just like a fluke. My mom took me, there was like 2,000 babies. And I guess I was just one who wasn't crying. And I was like, I was happy to be there. And 36 years later, not too much has changed. I still just always happen to be playing pretend. So
Absolutely. And I know for me, another, amazing show that I love that you're a part of, no surprise, Californication. And I have to admit, I joined the bandwagon a little late. I think it was closer towards the tail end of the season, but I quickly rewatched all the other seasons. But what was it like, working alongside David Duchovny? Your character was on, from the very beginning, and you kind of, were a little bit of a pain for Hank Moody. But what was it like working on that show?
Yeah, I was the antagonist. You know, what's funny about that is that I actually will get full on hate slash like death threats on Twitter because people conflate me as a person with Mia Lewis as a character. And they go, what Madeline Zima did to Hank Moody. I'm like, I didn't write this stuff, guys. It just was, a like a pawn in the game of playing my role. I guess I did a good enough job for people to really hate the character or love to hate the character. But I had a great time on the set. Like it was super well written and I was so young, but it was like my first like big role after the nanny. I mean, I hadn't gotten a series regular, anything like that since probably the nanny. So it was like me doing my first adult role. And I I really just was grateful that it was good writing, that I felt like I knew I didn't relate to the character that much, but I knew people who were like that character. I grew up around those kind of girls, and I had a lot of empathy and understanding for that kind of like need for attention and love in a misguided way. So, but it was a great experience. I mean, anytime I'm working, I feel like I learn so much and I grow. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean the show itself. I mean with David Duchovny, I know for me, I think the first time that I saw him was Don't Tell Mom, the babysitters, that he had a small part in that.
Was
The
he in that? I love that movie. I love that.
he was the boyfriend of the villain. I forget her name, the girl that was kind of
Oh
out.
yeah.
Whatever.
Oh yeah,
He was the
yeah, yeah,
boyfriend.
yeah, yeah. It was the at the when Christina Applegate is pretending to be an adult and has
Yeah,
like that job where she gets sexually harassed. And then
yeah,
there's like the two people who are like, why is this kid like moving up the ranks so fast and taking our
yep.
bonuses? Yeah. Oh my God. Wow, you're right.
He had that
That's
one line where he's all justice is served. I remember he had one
God.
line. And like we only knew him from like the X-Files. So like this was like a
Yeah.
different part for him too.
I think that was way before the X-Files. I'm pretty sure. I'm
That
pretty
was
sure.
before the X-Files, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
we only knew him, from a few other movies and the X-Files for so long. So this was a different part for him in Californication. But I mean, 7 seasons. I mean, the show was extremely successful.
yeah, I know. I wish I got to be a part of all the 7 seasons, but I was just really in the first two and then a little bit in 3 and 4. But yeah, people love the show. It went on forever, and I was super grateful that I somehow got lucky enough to play the role. So,
I know we actually like to sometimes ask some fans about some upcoming guests that we have and have like a fan type question. And one of the
oh,
questions that we
fun.
got was, what do you think Mia is up to now?
What do I think Mia is up to now? That's a good
Yeah.
question. She went on the book tour. I don't know if she was ever exposed as having stolen his book or not. Was she? Did that come out?
No, I think she got away with it.
They kind of just took that storyline and they dumped it. They just were like, we're just done with this. I don't know. I really don't know what she would be doing. I think she probably either would have like written another book and failed, or she would have maybe started. We did do YouTube things that were supposed to be a crossover thing. So I remember Showtime was like, hey, do a bunch of YouTube videos. So I did like in one day like 40 videos as Mia Lewis or Cross or whatever her name was. It changed a couple times. And so I was doing those in character. So maybe she became like a YouTube like influencer who like implodes and then gets canceled. She
I know.
probably canceled.
Yeah, I know the show kind of, I mean, there was that really big, ending on the airplane, but the show kind of ended, rather with like an open ending. Do you
Yeah.
think, has there been any talks of maybe bringing it back for like a TV movie or maybe like a standalone season, or is that just me having wishful thinking?
Whatever talks are happening, I'm certainly not involved in them, but I feel like people always like overestimate the power that actors actually have to make anything happen. Like you guys have like people who have channels and people who are fans and all that kind of stuff have more power to get something made nowadays than any actor, unless they have a script and a lot of like cool people attached. But no, I haven't heard about that. I haven't heard about that. It's possible. I
Yeah.
don't know about it though.
Yeah, maybe we can, stir up, just some news with Showtime and see if they can bring back another even just a TV movie. TV movies now streaming. has been
Yeah.
a lot more popular. I think that's a lot easier than doing like a full season just to kind of see what Hank Moody is up to. And if they do, I mean, there's no way that they wouldn't bring your character back.
I mean, they didn't bring me back for 6 seasons. They had an opportunity to, but it's possible. I would love to be back. I always, I'm always like down to be involved, but for whatever reason, you like, I think certain storylines run out of gas. So unless they found some way to really tie those like worlds together again, I don't know that they would think to bring me back. I would love that, but I never assume that I'm it's very difficult as an actor. You're invited to the party and then you never know like how long you're expected to stay at the party. And everybody from the outside is like, you're at the party. And you're like, I don't even know if I'm really supposed to be here or not the whole time. So
I mean, growing up, I mean, were there any like actors or actresses that you kind of drew from, or kind of like what helped you kind of sharpen your craft?
I mean, I think like I was sort of unaware about like actually acting for a super long time. I don't think it was in my like late 20s until I started actually watching film and like watching Kubrick films seriously, or like studying performers. Like I love Diane Keaton. I will always just like adore her. But I do like actresses who like Meg Ryan, who are they're you just can't take your eyes off them, and they make you feel so much. Like there's a lot of actresses who are very beautiful to look at and very like, interesting, or like, I don't know, but I feel like in the 90s we had like a whole variety of different types of faces to look at. And now I feel like there's a bit of a homogenized face that we're seeing that doesn't even necessarily reflect how most women look.
Yeah.
And so I like watching old movies, old movies, and definitely like I rewatched When Harry Met Sally the other day, and
Wow. Classic.
it was so good. It was so good. I was just like, this is heavenly. I was so inspired. Like Meg Ryan made my heart flutter, and she like made me feel so much. I'm like, I feel like I literally did have an emotional catharsis watching it. And I don't know that I've had that watching anything in recent memory.
Yeah, I
So
often joke too. It's like my movie dictionary like typically stops at like 99. So like
yeah,
70s to 99, I can just nail like any movie trivia contest. And after that, it just feels like there's just so much content. I don't know if the right word is like it's kind of saturated a little bit more now because there's so much content. But I agree, like in the 90s, like you'd be able to name who the top 5 actors, actresses are, during a specific year or, a decade. And it's like now it's like there's just so much content.
there are a lot of fantastic younger actresses now that I'm very inspired by. I love watching Olivia Cook. Like I'm like, she's just amazing. Chef's kiss, so good.
Yeah.
But there are just like I know, like I said that the other day, is like movies from the 70s and then from the 90s. And like the 80s are okay, but
Yeah.
like there's something about the 90s, and I think there was like this aspiring to be better at the turn of the century than the previous decade. Like 80s was so much about excess and sort of outfits, and it felt like a superficial era. And I feel like that next decade, the 90s, which is where I really grew up in and my consciousness was sort of formed, was really about authenticity and being like raw and real and intellectual, and having something to say, having something to contribute, and not being a poser. And then the early aughts was all about people posing, and I felt very disconnected from it. I mean, it was like and I admire Paris Hilton, but it was like the Paris Hilton era of people just like walking down a red carpet and like posing and like looking good. And it was almost like, I don't know, it's like every decade is like a rebellion to like the last decade. And so the early aughts I don't really resonate with, even though I guess I was like a teenager during that time. But I feel like the 90s were the decade I resonate with. So, but the movies they're superior to films nowadays, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with like the craft of filming it on actual film and taking your time rehearsal, making sure that they know what they're doing before they start shooting. Now it's like you shoot and you have like 3 takes, and it's like you better have it. And if you don't, we're moving on anyway, because it's like just like a machine.
Yeah.
And the process of shooting something on film, you it's expensive to shoot on film. So you better know what you're doing, and like, and having like a really solid understanding of your craft as an actor was like a very vital part of that. And nowadays, I don't know. The digital age has made, like people are filming themselves just chomping on food, and that is, and we'll watch it. I mean, and we'll consume that. So it's just a totally different, the world has fundamentally changed in terms of the way that we consume anything, media. So,
And the auditioning process has changed a lot too, right? Like I feel
oh
I
God.
a lot of, can't you just do an audition like on Zoom now and just send it in versus
I do
going?
it self-tape. You're in my self-tape studio right now, like my ring
We're in,
light,
we're in the
like, yeah,
studio.
this is in my garage. And it's just like, I love a self-tape because it reflects what I actually would do on set. And like, not the nerves of being judged for the way you look, and like how much you weigh, and like what clothes look like on you, but like not being a model, but like, just what your choices are for the scene, because they only show you in like this. Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like, that's what you're getting and what you need to have to make the scene work. And that's what people should be judged on. So I love the self-tape era. I love doing a self-tape. I'm excited to do it. I'm like one of the only actors I know who enjoys it. And it's probably the only reason why I'm getting jobs. I'm like, yay, I can't wait to like do my version of this. And I genuinely enjoy it. I mean, if the writing is good. If the writing is not good, it's a little harder, but most things are well written nowadays.
And you have some exciting projects that are coming up. Are you able to kind of get into some of your upcoming works?
I mean, I will definitely talk about Doom Patrol. I can't talk too much about it, but I get to play a superhero for the first time, which is so exciting. And I had the best time. I don't want to give anything, I can't give anything away, but I just had the best time. I got to play a joyful, like Mia was kind of a dark character, and I play a lot of like kind of like mess, like obviously Twin Peaks was like a dark character with a very tragic ending. And not to spoil it or whatever, but it's been out for a few years, so I feel like people won't be too mad. But like, just to play somebody who's like kind of like a bright, like positive kind of force is like such a different thing for me. And it was a real relief. I had just worked on a show that we filmed an entire season of that is not coming out now. But I hope it comes out. Maybe somebody else will pick it up. But I was playing a really heavy, dark, like New York cop in that. It's like the opposite of like the superhero. That's like a cartoon that like, just so it was joyful. Playing Casey Brinke was a super joyful experience. And I'm like, I hope people, especially the fans, because they love her. I hope that I do her justice, because I loved her, and she was like I don't know, a gift for me for sure.
And I know you can't really get into too much details, but like, what was some of the like the prep work you had to do before joining the cast? Was there any like prep work that you had to do beforehand?
No, but I did work with this. I worked with the stunt team and like rehearsed. And I tried to get in better shape, because when I was in Vancouver and working up there, I had gained like 20 pounds of just like eating, and just Vancouver in the winter is a toughie. So I gained a lot of weight up there, but it was for the role. But so I tried to get in better shape and watch characters that I felt were inspired me in the way of my take on the character on Casey. So, but that's kind of it.
I mean, this, landing this role obviously is a dream, but is there another superhero that you are still aspiring to potentially play down the road as well, now that you've, been a superhero in this role?
I love Batman movies. I would play like girl number 2 in a Batman movie. Just because I grew up like loving the Tim Burton Batman movies.
Same
So,
here, same.
but I'm not well versed enough, to be honest, in the comic book world or the superhero world, either DC or like, I'm just not, I'm
Yeah.
not well versed enough to be like, I want to play, Athena, because I don't know the characters. So, but I feel honored to play Casey. She was a bright light for me working that character. So.
Is there still a like an actor or actress or even a filmmaker that you're still hoping to work with down the road as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many, I always feel like I'm a little superstitious when it comes to like being like, I want to work with Steven Spielberg because, it's like almost like that, then it's like, it feels like it won't happen. But there's so many actors that I just am super inspired by, contemporary actors where I'm like, God, like I love watching Rachel McAdams. Like I haven't seen her in a while in stuff, and she's always so fucking good. Sorry, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm allowed to swear. Is that okay?
Oh
You have
yeah,
to-
of course. Of course.
but she's always just so good. And I love Marianne Cotillard, who's a French actress. She's just effortless. She doesn't even look like she's acting. And I just really love watching her. So there's like lots of people that I admire and I think are fantastic, but you never want to throw exactly it out there because it's like, it's out there, possibly could happen or possibly not. But there's so many actors that I love actors. They're wacky people.
I know with Rachel McAdams, I mean, she's so good at playing the sweetheart, and
Yeah.
then can easily just be like the mean person or the villain in a role as well. She easily switch it as well too. But yeah, and I do feel like it has been a few years since I've seen her perform, but she's amazing.
She's so good. She's so good. I remember watching The Notebook and just being like, who is that? She's making so many choices. You can't kind of take your eyes off of her. She's beautiful as well, like stunning, but
Yeah,
she's got this other kind of charm on screen.
yeah.
Um, I like watching actors like that. Yeah, there's so many, it's hard to keep track, but yeah, I'd like to work with, um, there's lots of people I'd like to collaborate with, but you
I,
just never know.
I
Yeah.
always love asking the actors or actresses whenever you guys are not working, what are the shows that you guys are binge watching? So when you're not working, who do you guys watch on TV?
I started watching some of the House of Dragon show, and then I've been switching around. Oh, I watched The Empress on Netflix, which was fantastic. And I have been to Vienna and sort of know some of the history over there, and and knew about that particular, like the Empress Sissy or Elizabeth, and her story is sort of messed up and tragic. So I was like, oh great, I kind of like already know what kind of happens, and it's kind of fun to feel like ahead of the storyline in a way. I just thought that was really well done. The acting was great. It was just really fun to watch, and well written. What else? I've been watching old movies. I kind of feel like there's so many old movies I haven't seen that
Yeah,
I tend to kind of fall behind on the current shows and stuff.
yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I kind of do the same too. Like I'll rewatch like older movies that I've seen like a dozen times or even 100 times. Like I'll get like a Pacino crave and I'll just go through like early 70s Pacino, and then I'll do the same with Robert De Niro also. And it's like every time you rewatch, like for example, Taxi Driver, it's like the first time you've seen it, or Deer Hunter, it's like the first time that you've seen it. It's just different. And I know you used the word like raw before, like acting was just raw before.
yeah.
It was just effortless. So I love, watching.
It was more of a craft than a performance. Now it feels like more of a performance than a craft.
Yeah,
Because again, it's a function of the way that things are made now. Things are made like, unless you're on an HBO show and they're really like, we're gonna win some Emmys and they'll take their sweet time. It's really a machine for the most part. And you have to come with like a plan. For
yeah,
any actors out there who are like, I'll figure it out on the day. It's like, that is not the way it works anymore, especially like during COVID time. I mean, I've worked more during COVID time than I have like in the last like 10 years probably. And um, you really have to just have your kind of stuff together. It's in the 70s though, they were like, it was an exploration. And a lot of times they were, probably on something, who knows, like, but now it's like, it's a whole different thing. It's a bit more, it's still a joy and it's still wonderful. And you still get to play make believe, but it's slightly more corporate than it used to be. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you like I love just reading into like like the pre-production of like movies and
yeah.
kind of like what went into the making of films. And like for Deer Hunter, like I think the writer like sat down with like a bottle of whiskey and like a gun and like
Yeah.
wrote the script. And like you just, I don't know if you like hear stories like that like anymore, on how like movies
No,
were made.
no, you don't hear stories like that anymore. Or those people kind of get fired because we're in the era of like not a lot of risk happening on sets, and not a lot of, I mean, people can't afford to do stuff like that now, for insurance purposes, if nothing else. But yeah, like they definitely, people were really, tripping on acid in certain scenes in old movies. People were really, in Easy Rider, people were really like living loosey goosey and like, probably partying on set.
Yeah,
And that's just not the way it is now. In my experience, everybody, you have to be professional. You have to come in and, do your thing and be kind and respectful. And those are the like, those are the things the markers that people look for now more, I think, than like, having something. I almost feel like if you do something that's too raw and too real, people will stop a take and be like, hey, are you okay? It's like, don't stop the moment. That was the best one. So yeah, it's a different world than it used to be.
yeah. Do you have any aspirations on like writing your own projects or making your own
Yeah.
films?
Yeah, I actually did a little writing today. I have a couple different scripts. I've completed 2 screenplays. They're a mess. I wouldn't show them to anyone because they're vomit drafts, but I'm writing this third thing that I'm like, okay, this might be promising. I did direct a short film that I wrote. And then I co-wrote something with my sisters and directed that over pandemic. And it was just like a fun, like, okay, we're stuck in our house and we're in a COVID bubble. So we're going to just work with each other and try to make something. Yeah, I definitely want to, I like just directing because I've been helping my friends with scenes for years and like I've been doing scene work for 35 years. So like I can figure out a scene pretty quick, how to make it work. So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, me myself, I'm also I'm an aspiring writer. So like I've written a
cool.
few screenplays too. So I love, just hearing kind of like the process around like screenwriting and kind of sharing stories as well too. So hopefully those screenplays can become featured films. I'd love to see the finished work sometime.
I hope so. I hope so. From your mouth to God's ears. Hope it happens.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing when you write something, right? And you're like, you do it, and then it's like, yeah, it's like a good feeling.
You
I made
created it.
myself smile today, a few times, and I'm like, that's funny. I think that's just like a nice moment. So it's magical. It's like we just pull something out of the thin air, and then it's a thing. And then if you're lucky enough, like people you admire and respect come and like make it even better and like make it a reality. And you're just like, this is wild.
And given that we're, creeping close to Halloween, any Halloween plans this year?
I might go to a couple parties. I mean, I've been so like the last 2 years had not too much of a life because I've been on film sets
Yeah.
basically, or TV show sets and getting tested 3 times a week. So going to an indoor party was not something I had done
Yeah.
pretty much over the last couple of years. But now I'm like, I'm free at the moment. And so maybe I'll go to a party. I don't know.
I know,
Nothing is set in stone.
I know the last like few years, right? Like with COVID, a lot of it was just kind of staying home and watching horror movies. So like it's starting to get more to where, we can visit people, and especially, like for this year. Did you watch the new Halloween movie, The Halloween Ends?
No, no. But I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm not a horror person. I can't do it. It's I will have bad dreams for like a month. I think it's amazing that people enjoy it. I went to see it with my old roommate Kimmy, and she's like, "Come to see it with me," and I was like, Oh, and so I went, but I watched her the whole time. Like I couldn't even watch the film. It was so well done. It was awesome and it turned out amazing. And good on the people who everybody who made that. But I literally like couldn't even watch it. I was like, tell me when this part's over, tell me when this part's over. And then I like turned back and like watch a little bit and be like turn back to her. I couldn't handle it.
Excellent, excellent. Again, I want to be respectful of your time, but just can't thank you enough for joining us today. And
Thank
also
you.
to want to, bring you back once we get some of your upcoming projects out. We can talk a
Yeah,
little more spoilers, but again, longtime fan. Can't
thank
thank you enough for
you.
joining us again today, and just want to thank you for joining Movie Junk.
Thank you. It was so nice talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of your day.